I don't know what's going on with me. I have this desire to connect with more people using social media. All of a sudden, I know that YouTube has been around for a long time. I have been using YouTube since I think 2015 for a different purpose, just for if I needed to search how to do something, or just watching people's videos, success, see what people are doing. And so, you know what I mean? And I was fine with that. I was fine watching people's videos. I was fine watching their surgery journeys, if BBLs and things like that. Here lately, my focus has changed. How so? Well, because now I want to get in on it. I will be 46, turning 47. You see how I did that? You see that? I made a mistake, but then I just try to act like what nothing different. I am 46. I'll be 47 next week, Wednesday, October 9th. And I just have really been having this shift in how I am, how I feel, how I think. Just to give you a little bit of backstory, I don't have any followers. Maybe 1, 2, something like that. Because I wasn't using my YouTube page like that. I was on other social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And my mother died March 8th, 2022. And so I went through the initial shock of it. That depression for that initial shock lasted approximately almost 2 years. I just started coming up out of that first half, December 2023. So now today's date is Saturday, October 5th. It's about 5:27 p.m. Central Standard Time. We haven't changed time yet. And so I am a nurse. I've been in the medical field for about 27 years. First, I was a medical assistant for like 17 years. Then I went back to nursing school. 16, yeah, probably about 16 years. I've been a nurse almost 11 years. So I live in Texas now. Followed my mother. My mother moved here originally back in like July of 2011. And then me and my 2 youngest kids, because my son had graduated high school July of 2012, and then we moved here. And he didn't come with us. And so my mother started getting sick probably in 2015. And me being a nurse, I did all that I could. Of course, took her to her appointments, the ones that she wanted me to, the ones that was near her house. She was fine driving herself. But like if she had to go someplace else, make sure, and then working 12-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts, depending on where I was at. I had days off during the week. So that was no big deal, because I would schedule her appointments. We'd be together, and I'd schedule my work around her appointments. So that was not a big deal at all. But I felt a lot of guilt because I was doing so much. And I'll tell you, I'm a nurse. There's different stages of nursing. There's LPN, there's RN. Then you can be an RN with your associate's degree. You can go back, you can get your bachelor's degree, which is the BSN. You can get your master's, and so on and so on. So I'm an LPN. And just as important, and I'll say this, I take my license very seriously because it's still a nurse. You still go through the schooling. It may not be, 16, 18 months. It's 12 months. You still have to go through all of the curriculum. You still have to practice and get your green light. You still have to graduate school. You have to pass those finals. Then you keep practicing on the computer to take your NCLEX, which is the state boards. So you practice. Once you get green lighted, then you're able to schedule your test, and then you can go ahead and test. So they prepare you very well. So it's not like an LPN or an LVN, depending on what part of the globe you're on. It's not like an LPN or an LVN is any less of a nurse. The only difference between an LPN and an RN is just, extra schooling. Yes, they get more meat and potatoes. They get more background. They get more information about the disease process. They may go into in-depth detail with care plans, because RNs can initiate care plans. LVNs, LPNs, we can add changes and things like that. We just can't initially do it, but we learn how to do care plans, because you still have to, you have to be able to do it. You know what I mean? And so, like, and just like thinking right off, I cannot think. We can amend, but we can't initiate. And like, there's certain meds that RNs can give that LPNs can't give. We still learn about the medications, because you still have to know. When it comes to blood transfusions, if you have a patient that needs to be transfused, it doesn't matter whether it's platelets, whether you're giving them albumin, if you're giving them, packed red blood cells, the RN initiates it. We can make sure the order, everything is correct. The lab lets us know when the blood arrives. You go get the blood, sign it out of the lab, come back, get you another nurse, go over it. You have to have two identifiers, one that's there with the patient with the armband, and you have the blood, and you're making sure everything is matching, and everything matches the order, matches the blood, matches the patient's armband, all of that stuff. We can get the tube and the saline, all of that prep. The RN initiates it, and they watch the patient for the first 15 minutes, because usually if a patient is going to have a reaction, it usually happens within the first 15 minutes. So if a patient has a reaction, the first thing that you do is you stop the infusion, because you don't want to keep, you don't flush it or anything like that. You just boom, stop, get a set of vitals, all of that stuff, write down the time, call the doctor, see what kind of symptoms the patient is having, and then, treat accordingly. You know what I mean? But by law, the training, the RNs, react. I've worked with RNs that I've seen freeze. They don't know how to work under pressure, or they're, they and you have to react. You know what I mean? So it's just I think it just depends on the person. I had intentions of being an RN, but it's just, I was able to make good money as an LPN. And the way that my life was at the time, I really wasn't worried about it. So it was no big deal. And so I did high intense things. Granted, my first 2 years as a nurse, I wanted to work in a long-term care facility, which is your nursing homes, your SNF, your skilled nursing facilities, because I wanted to get my head-to-toe assessments down. I did that for about 2 years, and then I started signing up with agencies, because I wasn't born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. So, I wanted to kind of like get my feet wet. You know what I mean? I wanted to see what different areas nursing that they had, and I wanted to work in them, because I wanted to know exactly what it is I liked, what I didn't like. So I signed up, and I did LTAC, which is long-term acute care. Those are the patients that comes from the hospitals, and this is like a step-down unit. They're not well enough to go home. They're not well enough to go to acute rehab. They're not well enough to go to a skilled nursing facility or a long-term care facility, because a lot of these patients are still on ventilators. They've got trachs. They're hooked up to a machine, or they have wound vacs, or they've got peg tubes and drains and stuff like that. So they're still critical, but for insurance purposes or whatever, the backstory, they can't stay in the hospital. So this is still a hospital, but it's long-term acute care, right? So I've done that, and that's usually, like a lot of medical surgical patients. So a lot of the patients were, you know, critical. Like I've had patients that was on cardizem, you know, the strong cardiac drugs, and those medications, you could not let those run out. You would have to have the next bag, have it primed, have it ready to go, and you constantly, you know, you checked on the patient regularly. You set your watch so you would be in there before it went out so you can hook up the next bag. And when you gave report, you gave report at the bedside, start a shift, end the shift, all of that. You know, I've had patients that were on wound vacs that I would have to monitor and troubleshoot. Patients that was on total parental nutrition because they had GI problems, and there was labs and things like that. So yeah, I was pretty much working as an RN. I had patients that were critical. It's just, you know, I wasn't in the ICU. I've worked in the ICU in long-term acute care, you know what I mean? But my job is just as important. So I learned a lot, and I always made sure that whatever assignment was, you know, my main priority. My patients, I didn't have time to look through every tab of the chart, but the most important parts, especially like the last 3 days of notes, I would look at. I would look back through the orders and see what meds or what things have changed, what has been ordered, so that I would have a better picture of what I was dealing with. And then I would go through my shift and see, okay, put things in priority. And so I would have like maybe 5 patients. It just all depends. Sometimes 6. If I ever had 7, it was severely short, but that very seldom ever happened. And so I take pride in my work. I like to educate myself. And so through that education of the patient and their background, their diagnosis, what led them there, what have they had, what surgeries have they had, what recent procedures have they had, what does their care plan say, you know what I mean, things like that. Even their family members, their dynamic, who comes to see them, and all of that stuff, as well as getting to know the patient, introducing myself, checking on them, updating the board, you know, and then going through my day, seeing what meds they have, what times they are given, if they have any treatments, any skincare, you know, issues and things like that. And I will prioritize my day and go. I have been mistaken for an RN because of how I like to be educated. And I think it's just all about, you know, like, how important is your job? You know, I've worked with nurses that did the bare minimum. I worked with nurses that did just enough to get by. I worked with nurses that was really efficient, that were team players. I worked with nurses that would pull meds and pretend they gave them and didn't. The nurse was always there early, wanted to be the ones like, hurry up, let's do narcotic count so that I can go ahead and pull my meds and get going. Pull meds and you're not going to give them. You know, when the shift, you know, night shift is coming in, because I usually did 7A to 7P, and so night shift is starting to show up. You're still finalizing, you know, making your rounds, giving your meds or whatever. You're at the nurse's station already with your report, waiting because you ain't give your meds. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I've seen a lot. And then, you know, having your CNAs and dealing with physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, dealing with family members, dealing with doctors, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, the laboratory, radiology, all types of stuff. If they have appointments, making sure that they're up and you know, they've, if any meds, and they're dressed, and, you know, that the night nurse already, you know, let the kitchen know that this person has an appointment, they're going to get picked up, and you need to make, you know, pull their breakfast early. Don't send it on the trays because they need to, you know. So you communicate and you get everything set up. That's a lot, you know, just as much as an RN does. You may have certain medications that you can't give if you have a patient that has heart problems, and let's say their rhythm is one that cannot sustain life, and the cardiologist needs to do some kind of cardio version. Of course, you know, the RN, you know, you would communicate, and whatever RN you was working with, like, hey, so-and-so, it's going to be cardioverted, you know, the RN knows you can't do it. You're an LPN. Sure, you know, no problem, whatever. I'll watch your patients while you're in there with the cardiologist, and go on about your shift. That's a part of that. I've done acute rehab, where patients have had knee replacements, hip replacements, rotator cuff surgeries, things like that. And they're there for acute rehab so that they, can get a better quality of life and they, go home or whatever. So you may have to do wound care. You may have to count sutures, count staples, make sure the wound is clean and dry, clean it, all of that stuff, put the date, the time, your initials, all of that. And I've done home health. I've done private duty. I've done urgent care. I've done freestanding emergency room. Just a lot of things. With all of that I've done, I tried to apply as much. Oh, and not to mention, I've had patients that were, on dialysis or was regularly getting blood transfusions, or was in some type of contact isolation, whether it's nootropic, where neutropenia, where you have to protect them, and you wear your mask and their immune system has been lowered and they're getting medication. I said nootropic, but yeah, I did change it to I don't know why I said nootropics. That's funny. But anyways, yeah, I've done a lot. And so that I always apply to my family whenever it comes in handy. You know what I mean? And so I applied a lot of what I learned in school and in the work field to my mother and helped out. But I went through a lot of, depression after that because I felt like I failed her. And I know, God gives everlasting life. I understand that, but still, I tried, And so it took me a while to get up out of that first stage of grief. Since that has happened, I have mentally changed. I don't really want to do nursing anymore. Now, I don't mind it because I do love understanding the human body best of my ability. I love being able to help. I love being able to educate. But then it's like you get through a certain phase and then you want to elevate. So now, not only do I want to educate people, but there's a shift. My mother and I, we talked about so many things, and we didn't get to do any of those things because her illness, dialysis takes up a lot of people's time. If you're doing hemodialysis, you're at a dialysis clinic, usually 3 days a week, either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. The alternative was peritoneal dialysis. It's more convenient because you're doing it at home, but inconvenient because you're doing it every day. You know what I mean? So it was like her quality of life had changed. Over the years, it declined. And the things that we wanted to do, traveling and relocating to the Bahamas, things like that, we didn't get to do. After my mom died, I didn't want to do any of those things. I don't want to talk about going to the Bahamas. I don't, and I felt bad, as if I was having fun without my mother, or it was like a disrespect. How dare you enjoy life and your mom died? How dare you do these things and you didn't get to do them with your mother? Then I, just recently started thinking that's absolutely not true at all. That is the furthest from the truth. My mother would want me to continue living. My mother would want me to live life. And so, with that being said, my mind was shifting in regards to work. The more you work because you need money, because you have bills to pay, you're away from home. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life doing that. And I wanted to supplement my income. So I started looking into digital marketing. I started looking into ways that I could work from home. I started, looking to see, okay, what areas interest me? How can I use the skills that I have in the medical field, and how can I apply this to digital marketing? And how can I help other people? Because We all need multiple streams of money coming in. You know, inflation is it's affecting everybody. It's not just affecting me. And so that was, you know, my thing. So yeah, it's like a double reward, because I'm getting rewarded by getting paid, but then also the reward is me educating other people. And especially if they happen to be my customers or my clients, then if it's an interest of theirs, then they can go ahead and do the same thing. So it's like win-win. So that was fine. And so I've, you know, looked and started purchasing programs on learning about funnels, learning about attraction marketing, learning about your audience, your target audience, learning about your niche, learning about your brand. What is it that you want to do? You know, and then how do you use it? How do you use social media? If you decide to use email marketing, you know, just like, what do you want to have products? Do you want to sell products? Do you want them to be digital? Do you want, you know, it's like so many things, you know. What are you interested in? And I'll say I've learned about running ads on Facebook, because not only can you use that to promote yourself and make sure that your information goes to who it needs to, but then you can also help out companies that need that as well. Companies, you know, need help with that. And a lot of times they don't, you know, a business owner that owns however big or small, franchise or not, you know, a lot of them don't have the time to learn the marketing and stuff because they're too busy running the business. So I get it. So being able to reach out and, you know, offer your services and get paid for that. Like, yeah, I wanted to do things in the comfort of my own home. Here in San Antonio, Texas, the traffic is so stressful, so taxing. It's you're really exhausted, especially if you have to go to work Monday through Friday, because I've done Monday through Friday. I've done the banker hours, and it's like so exhausting only having Saturday and Sunday off. And then before you know it, it's Monday again. Then you don't have time to do anything, because then by the time you get home, depending on what time you get off, you might be getting home 6:30. By the time you know, unwind, shower, eat, it's time to go to bed and get up and do it again the next day. So yeah, like I was not feeling that. So I'm like, yeah, I need these things that I'm learning. I need to find a way to put this into action. And so now I'm doing digital products. You know what I mean? And so a lot of people, you know, love education. They love to learn about things. They love ebooks. They love journals, you know, courses and how-tos. And, you know, you see online, especially since COVID, everybody's having webinars. And, you know, what skills do you have? Are you a health coach? Are you a life coach? You know, are you a mechanic? Are you, you know, do you create? Do you have a creative side? Do you do arts and crafts? Like, it's so many things. And then, like, actually thinking of what it is you're good at, and then, you know, getting monetized for that, and doing that from the comfort of your own home. And so it was like, to me, since, you know, I had bounced around in different areas, like my wheels have been turning. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to go back to work outside the house for real, because I want to be my own boss. Now, I don't know how people are going to receive me, because it's one thing working at a hospital or an LTAC or even a nursing home or an urgent care, or, you know what I mean, freestanding ER. It doesn't matter. You're on the clock, so you're there to do a job. But when you're a business owner and you're trying to connect with people, you have to learn how to communicate in that sense. You know, you don't know how people are going to take you. If a person doesn't like you, if they're not feeling you, they're not going to patronize you. You know, they're not going to come to your establishment. They're not going to come to you to get assistance for whatever it is they have a problem, you know, about, and you have a solution. They're not. They're going to find it somewhere else. And so that was like the big shift. I'm not clocking in at a place, you know, I'm clocking in for myself. And so Are people going to take me seriously? Will they see me as a businesswoman? Do you have things of value? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like during the pandemic, I did Drink to Shrink with Eb. That was a part of the community I choose to live. And they had so many different flavors of these detox drinks that we would, it was all natural herbs, 9 herbs, and then how it affected the body, how it detoxed and things like that. If you're on any kind of medications or, you know, if you are experiencing any, changes in your heart rate, fluttering, shortness of breath, dizziness, headache, ear, all of this stuff, like, I was educated, like you're able to detox and flush out your body. And this is how much water you need to drink. And this is how much the gallons are and all of this stuff. So that kind of like gave me a taste. And I did good with that. I didn't blow up because I wasn't like going hard. And this was before I learned about digital marketing. So now fast forward, jump back again to where we are today in 2024. As the days go by, my body is changing. I don't know if anybody else out there feels the same way, but the only way that I could describe it, and I've talked to my husband about this, like seriously, like all jokes aside, I have this burning, this urge, this craving to be successful in the business realm. Like I have no desires of going back to work somewhere. I quit my job July 18th. It was not planned where I was working. It just wasn't working out anymore. Like the surroundings was becoming so toxic. And then my partner she got fired because it was 2 of us in the position. And so that left everything on me. I had COVID at the time as well. So it was like, I wasn't feeling good and it just was not the right time. And I gave notice and I ended up quitting. After that, I really, really wanted to really do digital marketing and attraction marketing and learning about branding and, monetizing and earning money, but then also being able to help others, because I know I'm not the only one that wants multiple streams of income. I know there are a lot of people out there making 5, 6, and 7 figures. And I was tired of that not happening to me. And I'm like, I'm intelligent. I am I am a hardworking woman. I am a mom. My kids are grown. I'm like, my mom is dead and gone. Like I'm transitioning into a different stage of my life and my body is changing. My mind is changing. Like these things, like uploading videos, or first of all, even before you get to uploading, recording videos like this, like that was not something that I did. Now I crave it. And I'm wanting to master YouTube. Whereas people have been making money and getting monetized off of YouTube for years. Well, that wasn't my thing then, but now it's my thing. And I told my husband, like, the more I, think about it, the more I think about it. I can't ignore it. And I said, yeah, like I have several job offers. So absolutely, yes, I can go and I can, what I can do is, yeah, I can go ahead and I can accept a job somewhere. No problem. Absolutely. But do I want to? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I do research and I look at, other people's videos. I subscribe to people, and thinking of what attracts me to other people's videos and having to apply it to myself. The title, like how do you title it? How do you make it catchy? So you can, look things up. You could Google that, and then apply that to whatever video you're recording. And so that's what I'm doing now. And I'm like, I don't know if anybody else out there has had that happen to them, but it's just like, for me, it's the desire is so strong. I can't get around it. You know what I mean? And it's so crazy to think that, wow, now this is me. Now I never thought of myself as the type to be an influencer or however you're categorized now. I never wanted to do that. And now that's all I can think about. And so I'm like, now I have digital products. So, Digital Boss Academy. And I'm like, I want to learn and master these products that we have digitally, these ebooks and guides and courses and things like that. And also offering the opportunity to other men and women that are interested in supplementing their income. And then you learn the same thing. Like, so much information is in this Digital Boss Academy. And I'm like, I am so excited. I'm like, there's a certain lifestyle that I want to live. There's things that I want to do that my mother and I did not get to do. And as upset as I get, I have to channel that and that flame, that anger. I have to let it fuel my desires. Use that energy for good and not, don't let it affect you negatively. You know what I mean? And that's exactly like how I am now. And I don't know who my videos are going to touch. I'm praying that somebody likes my videos and that the view count is not me watching my own videos. Like, you know what I mean? It's just crazy how you grow and you develop and you start changing. And it's like, I'm growing and I'm developing, and I'm about to be 47 years old in 4 days. Not even focusing on the fact that my mom is not here anymore. Those phone calls, those text messages, those visits, either me going to her house or her coming to my house, us playing spades and having drinks, and my husband, my mom, and my aunt, like the four of us playing spades, and me turning the cable to one of the R&B channels, and we're laughing and talking and eating and playing cards. Like, that's done for right now. This different Ebony that is maturing and growing, that wants to be this businesswoman, that wants to be able to help people supplement their income. How are people going to receive me? You know what I mean? And are they going to love me? Am I going to have thousands of views? Am I going to have millions of views? Am I going to have hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube, that people that watch my videos like how I watch other people's videos? And I'm not tech savvy. I'm learning how to use Canva because of, my interest in digital marketing, and now having these digital products and getting my page together and downloading these PDF files and then talking about it, marketing myself. It's so much that I want to do.